Hey guys, welcome. A lot of viewers in a lot of comments ask me and even demanding me to do a stealth comparison between the Sabre and the new Hornet Ghost Mark II. You know what? I'm gonna do one better for every one of you. I'm not only going to do a stealth comparison, I'm gonna do a complete ship comparison between the Sabre and the Hornet Ghost Mark II so as to help you make a better decision on which ship you should choose or keep. Let's start with the basic specs, speed. In terms of the SCM speed without boost, the Hornet Ghost is better than the Sabre, 220 meters per second, and the Sabre's SCM speed is only 206 meters per second. However, when boosting forward in SCM mode, they have the exactly same speed, 480 meters per second. When boost backward in SCM mode, the Hornet Ghost is also better than the Sabre. If you strafing backward during combat, the Hornet Ghost can reach a top speed of 250 meters per second backwards, and the Sabre can only reach 230 meters per second backwards. So in terms of the SCM speed, the Hornet Ghost scored 1 point. Now, in maximum navigation speed, the Sabre is faster than the Hornet Ghost Mark II. Sabre has 1,235 meters per second top navigation speed, and the Ghost Mark II is 1,150 meters per second. And that's 85 meters per second faster for the Sabre in maximum navigation speed. And you can only reach this navigation speed in empty space. If you're in atmosphere, both speed will be lowered, even in navigation mode. So Sabre score 1 point. Now, maneuverability. The Sabre pitch, yaw, and roll 55, 55, and 160 degrees per second. The Hornet Ghost is 56 and 45 and 150 degrees per second. Boosted maneuverability. The Sabre is 66, 66, and 192 degrees per second. The Hornet Ghost is 67, 54, and 180 degrees per second. So both for the yaw and roll, the Sabre has 10 degrees per second more than the Ghost Mark II. So the Sabre has a better maneuverability, and that scores 1 point for the Sabre. The next important point is the hull HP. The Sabre has 23,000 hit points, yet the Ghost Mark II has only 12,551 hit points. So basically, the hull HP of the Sabre almost doubles that of the Ghost Mark II. That scores another point for the Sabre. Now, in terms of fuel capacity, the Sabre has hydrogen capacity 13.5 SCU and the Ghost Mark II has 14.4 SCU. So the Ghost Mark II has a little bit better hydrogen capacity. And for the quantum fuel capacity, they are the same, 0.7 SCU. However, I don't want to give a full point for the Ghost just because of a little bit more hydrogen capacity. So I'm gonna give a 0.5 point for the Ghost Mark II for this. Next thing, we're going to compare weapons and missiles. And for the weapons, I'm using deadbolts for everything, so we can compare them easily. So the Sabre has 4 size 3 hardpoints, and I'm using 4 size 3 deadbolts. And with this loadout, the total weapon DPS for the Sabre is 3,036. Alpha damage is 1,822. However, for the Ghost Mark II, it has 2 size 4s on the wings, and you can also equip a bolt turret from the F7A Hornet Mark II to make it 2 size 4 and 2 size 3 for the Hornet Ghost Mark II. And with 2 Deadbolt 4 and 2 Deadbolt 3, the total DPS for the Hornet Ghost Mark II is 3,796, and the alpha damage is 2,277. This is better than the 4 size 3s on the Sabre. So I'm gonna give 1 point for the weaponry for the Ghost Mark II. Now, missiles. I'm really surprised that the Hornet Ghost Mark II has only 8 size 1 missiles. This is even less than the Hornet Ghost Mark I. So the total missile damage for the Ghost Mark II, 8 size 1, is only 9,248. But guess what? The Sabre can carry 8 size 2 missiles, and I put them all as regular tools, and the Sabre has a total missile damage of 32,560. Definitely score 1 point for the Sabre. Here comes the most important factor that we need to compare: the stealth for the Sabre and the Hornet Ghost Mark II. First of all, the Sabre has a 40% signature reduction. The Ghost Mark II has only 28% stealth reduction. However, these signature reduction number are already taking consideration into the signature we're about to look at. So for both Sabre and Hornet Ghost, they have the exact same components, same size and same amount. 2 size 1 shield, 2 size 1 coolers, 2 size 1 power plant, and 1 size 1 quantum drive. So for the components for both Sabre and Ghost Mark II, I'm using all stealth components. Some are stealth A, some are stealth B, some are stealth C, because in Pyro it's really difficult to buy those stealth components. So I just unequipped the stealth components from, for example, the Aegis Eclipse, and equipped them for these 2 ships. One thing I need to mention is that I unequipped 1 power plant from both of these ships, so I kept only 1 size 1 stealth power plant, because you cannot turn off your power plant through your power management, and in order to give the minimum signature emission, I have to unequip 1 power plant for both ships. For the Sabre, the minimum cross-section is 1,414. For the Ghost Mark II, the minimum cross-section is 1,495. They are almost identical. 81 meters is not a big difference. However, for the highest cross-section, there is a big difference. The Sabre is only 3,331. For the Ghost Mark II, it's almost 6,000, 4,789. That makes a big difference. Because if you want to maintain stealth, you cannot always keep your nose in front of your enemy. When you rotate your ship, sometimes you face your side, sometimes you face the top. In that sense, the Sabre has a much better advantage than the Ghost Mark II. Only 3,331 for your highest cross-section value. Which means if you can control other signatures, the IR and EM, under this value, then you can maintain stealth even under 3.3 kilometers. Also depends on the radar the enemy ship is using. Now, let's reduce both ships' signature to the minimum. First is a Sabre. Using ballistics, we just need 1 pip to weapon. So Sabre shields off, half power to engine. We have reached the best signature. EM is only 1,372. Is lower than the front cross section. So this is the best power management for the stealth Sabre. Now, Hornet Ghost Mark II. Same thing, 1 pip to weapon, but only 1 pip to engine. Now, you have reached the best stealth for the Hornet Ghost Mark II. EM is 1,475. A little bit lower than the minimum cross-section, which is 1,495. So in terms of the power management, both of them have to turn off shield. It's not really a big difference. With a Sabre, you give 2 pip to engine. With a Ghost, you give 1 pip to engine. So in terms of power management, there is not much a big advantage between those 2 ships. However, as we talked about it earlier, the highest cross-section value makes a difference for the Sabre. And by the way, these numbers I have tested personally in many of my previous videos, both for the Sabre and especially recently for the Ghost Mark II. These numbers from the ShipViewer website, they hold true in-game as well. So you can trust these numbers. I'm not going to test in this video again, but you can trust these numbers. So in this sense, the Sabre has a better stealth capability than the Ghost Mark II. Scores 1 more point. So in total, the Sabre scored 6 points in our comparison. The Ghost Mark II scored 3.5. It's very clear who is the winner.